And we are live.
Hello.
Hello, 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 hello.
Hello, people. People here now, people joining us later. Hello.
People who are going to see this recording
Exactly.
in the next coming days. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Um, we're just going to
Hello
give
from
it a
Lagos.
pardon.
I said hello from Lagos, Nigeria.
Yes. Hello from Lagos, Nigeria. Hello from Johannesburg, South Africa. Osaru is in Lagos, Nigeria.
Mhm.
So yeah, we'll just give it a few minutes and we'll start. So you were telling me that how was your day? It's
Yeah,
raining.
it's raining like cats and dogs in Lagos at the moment. So I'm glad I'm not on the road because whenever it rains, there's quite a bit of traffic. So I'm
Yeah.
in my cozy office as it rains. Thank God.
I've been in that Lagos traffic.
I know it's not fun, but yeah.
When they tell you about it, you're like, yeah, I know traffic. Oh, come
No, no,
on,
no,
I know,
no.
I know, I know.
No, no, no,
Like
no, no.
this is a different kind of traffic, and
It
then you
is.
experience it, and you're like, oh
It's a
yes, they were right. This is a different kind of traffic.
traffic. Traffic has levels, as you say. It's got levels, and Lagos traffic is to the level of the power of 100.
It's a different
Yeah, but it's okay.
experience.
I mean, there is, but I'm so patient in traffic now. Well, maybe because I'm not driving though, but I am very patient in traffic. I just
Yes,
sit in the streets,
you
like
get used to it.
you get used to it, and I'm just calm most of the time. Or I'm on my phone doing something, trying to make the best use of the time and not get frustrated by it. That's what I do
Yeah,
in traffic. But yeah, but the rain feels nice. It's cool, nice and cool.
yeah, because it gets very hot in Lagos. I see people are
Because
joining us. Hello, everyone who's just joining us. We will just give it um, 2 more minutes, and then I think we'll start because I know that our time is. I'm always conscious of the time that we have for these conversations. So whoever's joining us right now, you can just say hello to us in the chat, in the comments section, so that we know where you're joining us from. But I also know hello to our Facebook community as well. I know there are also people who are joining us via Facebook that we perhaps won't be able to see here. But yeah, we'll just give it a minute and then we are going to start this conversation that I'm very excited about.
I like your nail color, by the way. I'm obsessed with nails. It's so pretty.
Yes,
It's
thank you.
uncomfortable.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oh. All right, cool. So everybody, I'll just start, and I think people will obviously find this recording, and those who join us can join us now. So to everyone who's just joined us, welcome to the fourth installment of what we have termed the Full Color Leader series.
Love it.
And as you guys, well, to those who may not know, yeah, let me not assume. The Full Color Leader series is birthed from my book, Thinking in Full Color,
Mm.
which we will share the details about how to order it in South Africa for now. It is coming to Lagos and America and Germany soon, soon, soon. I'm going to share
Oh,
the Amazon details in the next coming weeks, so be on the lookout on our social media pages. But yeah, so for today's conversation, before we get into the conversation, I just want to get some logistics out of the way. So if you do have any questions or comments, as Osaru and I are in conversation, you are very free to pop them in the comment section. And then Unosiu, somewhere in the background, is going to populate the questions both in all our different social media platforms. And then she's going to share them with myself and Osaru. And then at the end, we are going to dedicate some time to go through those questions. So,
okay.
so my name is Bongeka Mhlongo. And I am the founder of Pen the Vision, which is a content creation organization that really creates content around purpose. I'm deeply passionate about, people living out their purpose, because I've come to believe that my purpose is not a luxury, but a necessity that has deeply shaped the way that I live my life. Even the fact that we're in this conversation, it's because I've been very blessed with clarity around my purpose. So at Pen the Vision, our mission is to create awareness with the hope and the desire that, people also acquire that level of clarity around their purpose. But I'm also the author of Thinking in Full Color. Thinking in Full Color, which is really the foundation of our conversation today. And Thinking in Full Color is really a collection of ideas, messages, and conversations that are meant to trigger new kind of thinking, particularly full color thinking, empathetic thinking, nuanced thinking, that seek to make us better at both the individual level, at the workspace level, as well as at a bigger global level. And I think tonight's conversations, we have titled it Curating Africa. And I think it fits so beautifully with the book, because a lot of the themes that I explore in the book are about how do we reimagine ourselves as Africans and retell our stories and retell the narratives about our continent, about our experiences, and about our people. And if you think about the idea of what it means to curate, let's give a simple example of Instagram, or if you look at our social media influences, when somebody puts out particular pictures or even like a filter or messages, they are curating a particular narrative that they are wanting you to see when you come into their page. And this whole conversation about curating Africa, it's saying we are taking back hold of the narratives that have been told about our continent, and we are retelling the stories that we want the world to see about our continent. And I'm so excited to delve into this conversation with a creative genius, with one of the great one of the great designers of our time. And her name is Osaru. She's all the way in Lagos, Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce Osaru. And I think, I saw Osaru on Netflix, actually. She is, guys, again, this is not a paid promotion, but I promise you, go check out a documentary called Made by Design on Netflix. It is amazing. It is incredible. I loved it so much. So Osaru is one of the featured I guess designers and African creatives in that documentary, and I just fell in love with what she represents. And I reached out to her to say, hey, I have this mission around my book, to add color to the conversation, to retell the African story, and I think you would be so perfectly situated to talk to us about this concept of design and how we're thinking about design in Africa and how we're thinking about design in the context of our workspaces. So without any further ado, I would like to say hi, Osaru. How are you?
Hi, Bongeka. I'm always struggling. Bongeka. I will get it right.
Bongs.
I keep saying this. I must get it. Bongeka.
Yay.
So thank you so much for having me on here. It's so exciting. Like I guess amazed every day by realizing how small the world is getting because of the internet, and how like literally, I'm here, you're there in South Africa, in literally one DM away, we're able to connect. And yesterday I said, oh, my sister's from South Africa. I was talking about Yandosi, and the lady in my office was, they're your sisters now. People that you just met. I said, yes, then believe it's like that, because we connect, because when we have the same vision, the same idea as people for Africa, and just for humanity in general. It's very easy when you have a first conversation with someone. You don't need to talk for hours or for years to realize that we're thinking in the same direction and going in the same line. And I'm obsessed with synergy and collaboration. Those things mean the world to me. So I always feel like when I find someone or a people who have the same ideologies as I do, I just want to connect and keep growing and growing. And I always, it's like, you know how what's that thing called, where when you hit one car down and a whole bunch of them keep falling. It's
Oh,
like
the domino
a
effect.
domino effect, you know.
Yeah.
You're doing something and another person wants to do, and it just keeps flowing. So I don't see things as well, someone is doing something so you cannot do it, or another person is doing this so you're doing this. You're in South Africa, I'm hearing about it, I'm excited, I'm in Lagos, people are watching us, and just from this conversation, what I strongly believe is that many people, the domino effects, passes on to other people, and then more people start to do things that actually care about curating Africa and the
Yeah.
entire system, ecosystem in Africa. So it's
Beautiful.
exciting for me, and I'm so glad to be here.
So, Osaru, thank you for just landing that so beautifully. So I always like to start at the genesis of who a person is, right? Before we get into obviously the heart of the conversation or the heart of the matter for tonight's matter. So just for those who perhaps haven't had the opportunity yet to watch the documentary Made by Design, can you just share with us who is Osaru? Like, what are you about? Who are you? And how did you? I mean, we'll still obviously dwell deeper into in terms of what interior design means for you, but how did you find yourself part of the Made by Design documentary?
Okay, I'm going to take this question in three segments. Who am I? First, okay, so
Yeah.
my name, of course, is Saru Alicia, which is my middle name, Alile, and I like to see myself as someone who intentionally likes to bring joy and happiness to others. So if you haven't watched, I've watched. I called myself the sprinkle of happiness. I literally came up with that thing as the show was going on. But when I was thinking about it, like, who are you and what do you want to see happening
Yeah.
to people around you? I want people to be happy. I want joy to be literally sprinkled around. So that is a huge part of who I am. Um, I'm a designer by, I guess, career, I would
Mm,
say. But more than that, I am just a human that loves people, full
mm.
of life, I would say, and really likes to just bring people along. Whatever it is that I'm doing, I like to bring people along. Like to see people grow and get better at whatever it is they're doing. Um, so it just happens naturally for me. For Made by Design, how did I get on the show? Made by Design was curated by Titi Ogufere, who's the producer of the show. She happens to be a friend, and I would say a friend and a mentor, and the person who started Interior Design Association of Nigeria. I've always, over time, since I moved to Nigeria from New York, studying interior design. When I moved to Nigeria, I was looking for people that I could connect with that cared about
Mm.
the industry as a whole. So I didn't know that it was unique to do this or to care that much. But when I came back and I wanted to enter into the industry, just as I had been doing when I was in New York, I was always part of ASID, which is the Association of Interior Designers in New York. Even as a student, I always just cared. I was like, how can we bring this industry forward? What can we do? So I was looking for people, and people introduced me to her. So that's how I met her in the beginning. But then as we went along, I was always in the forefront somehow of interior design, especially when it comes to students and education, interior design in Nigeria as a whole, and in some parts of Africa. So when the show started, it was during the lockdown. I was working on quite a few projects, and she called me one day and said, "Oh, Sarah, I'm working on this thing called Made by Design. It's a documentary series, and I would like you to be a part of it." So she said, "I'm doing a pilot episode, and you told me about some of the projects you're working on, and I'd like to shoot you in action." And I was like, "Sure." At the time, it was going on Netflix, so we just did like a pilot episode. And I was in it, showing my life, like what I do every day. And I watched it. It looked exciting. And shortly after that, after the lockdown, she had a conversation with Netflix, and the show got on Netflix, and then they shot all the other episodes. So it was just very interesting to be there from the beginning and just to see how these things happen. And it has definitely been a very, very, very exciting thing to have been a part of, because I
Yeah.
mean, all over the globe, like people are like, "Oh, I want you."
All over.
So it's very interesting, and for me, it's like it's like a charge. There is one thing to do something that looks cool and great or whatever, but it also puts a charge on you that, okay, what are you doing next? You need to do more. Like, okay, if you have this opportunity to have quote unquote a voice or a platform, then you need to jump from there and do something, things that people will be able to, that add value to the lives of people essentially. So that's what Made by Design has done to me essentially. It has given me a charge to want to do more, especially with the platform of interior design.
That's incredible. And more than that, it's so incredible.
Yeah.
The fact that we're here is because of Made by Design. That, I watched that show, and I think for me, one of the things, and again, I promise, guys, this is not a paid, but you really like but you really have to watch the documentary. Personally, one of the things I loved about it, and I remember as I was watching all the episodes, Chimamanda's TED Talk, "The Danger of a Single Story," dropped in my spirit, right? And one of the things she always says about the single story is that it's not that it's false, it's that it's incomplete. And what I love about that, it showed a more complete story about particularly Nigeria,
Yes.
and obviously Nigeria representing Africa for me, considering that it's on this global platform. I was just blown away by the creative economy. I was blown away by the cutting edge conversations. And I was like, I need to be part of this somehow. I don't know what it is, but guys, the incredible things are happening. And I love that. I love that's a facet that we don't often get to see, and that was incredible. Even thinking, and hence I wanted to talk to you, because even thinking about interior design, I never thought of it that way, right? So it even expanded and made me even hungrier to explore the conversation, right? Which I guess brings me to my next question around, in the post COVID-19 world, I'm very language has become a very interesting thing. So we have terms like social distancing or
Yes.
isolating together, but can you really isolate together and socially distance, right? And growing up, I've always thought that interior design is you decorating your house. So
Like us. So I understand.
could you unpack for us in the most simplistic definition, what is interior design?
Okay, so how I would like to describe interior design, it is the icing of the cake of spaces. And when I say that, but it's not just to the visually for the eyes to see. It is also a very technical thing that happens from the inside of the
Mm,
space onto the outside. Um, Interior design does not only do, okay, so how somebody had described it before, a friend of mine, Omo, she said interior design is plastic surgery, where interior decoration is just like, getting your makeup done. So what it does, it literally takes into consideration every single thing that could possibly be happening in the space and tackles it space by space by space, item by item. So for example, if we're working on a house right now, I would always ask the most ridiculous questions. How many hours do you spend in your bedroom in the mornings? How many hours do you sleep for? What are you doing? What are the thoughts that go through your mind? How do you want to feel when you're in your home? How do you want to feel in your office? Like all these questions, because interior design does not and should not only affect what the eye sees, but it should also evoke feelings, emotions, evoke conversation, evoke communities. It should build people, just from being in a space. It can actually build people to act and react in certain ways.
mm,
So, for example, you know how you feel when if you walk into a cafe, you feel
yeah.
different than you walk into a fancy five-star restaurant. And that's just
Mm,
because of its design. It's not
wow.
because they wrote the name cafe on the wall or they wrote the name fancy restaurant. It is actually because of the way design. It's quite intentional. So the colors you select, the material selected, the way it bounces off sound. Like if you're in a fancy five-star restaurant, you don't want to hear so much sound. So you tend to use materials that absorb sound. So everything sounds nice and soft and cool. But if you're in a
Yeah.
cafe, you don't mind
Yeah.
hearing other people's voices and hear
Yeah.
people walking around, hearing their footprints. So it's very, very intentional about materials, colors, the feeling that you want people to evoke in the space, and also culture. That's one of the things that is very big for me as an interior designer. How do you want to pack and unpack culture because of how
Mm,
the design? And when I say culture, I don't only mean culture in terms of the country you're from or the continent that you're from, but I mean culture in terms of lifestyle. So how you live, how you want to live, how you want your lifestyle to be perceived, how you want to feel when you wake up. Like I can be in a home, it doesn't even, and it's not even really about money. I can be in a space and I want to feel like a queen. Simple things like having a bed bunk, like how you have in dorm rooms in school, or
Yeah.
having a bed that has like a nice canopy. It changes the way you wake up in the morning. You wake up and feel like I am a queen. But if it's a
True.
bed, you just feel
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, I just want to hop off the bed and move. So it's things like that. So that's what interior design is to me, and that's on a practical, typical level. But on another level, it is for me an avenue for change. And it's something that I didn't realize it when I started, that's for sure. But ever since I've worked in interior design, even as a Nigerian, as an African woman, I've realized that, oh my goodness, this is actually a platform for me. Like I'm speaking, my voice is being heard just because I'm in this industry. And I do not take it for granted. And I continue to watch it happen and now consciously push towards it because I want to make a difference through interior design. And something that you mentioned earlier, talking about telling our stories, there was a time that I was not curating, sorry, I was, what's the word? Moderating a panel for that spoke about building a legacy. And I'm I'm one of those people that sometimes people say, "Oh, sorry, we don't even know what you do. You're so quiet." I'm not a quiet person, but I'm not
Yeah.
one to actually post a lot of things online. I always show my work or show my personal life. I post sparingly, but not like a lot. And I didn't naturally used to tell my story before. So somebody during the session, I was moderating the session and I was talking about building a legacy, how important it is, blah blah blah. And I was talking to this Italian family who have been in the industry for 100 and something years, and it was like the grandparents, the family, and then now the kids are also in the same business. It was a kitchen company, and I was just talking to the daughter, the granddaughter, and asking her like, so how did you? Why were you interested in your grandfather's business, and like how did you get into it? And she was talking about how her grandfather documented every single thing that was ever done, and just
Wow.
seeing that and seeing everything that happened, she was able to take from where he started and build on it. And for her, it was almost like it was a no choice. There was no choice. And that day, I was sitting there thinking to myself that Osaru, if you, I mean, I'm not dying anytime soon, but if you left,
No, no, no. Please, oh.
it's not happening. If you left this world right now, would anybody be able to say, "Oh, this is what Osaru like"? Not because I wasn't doing anything, but because I just don't share. Like I just didn't used to share. So for me, even then, so that was a charge for me to start sharing my story. So when the opportunity for Made by Design came, I was like, I'm going to share my story from where it started. And I
Yeah.
cannot tell you how many people have spoken to me about the fact that I mean, is it okay if I can share it just a little bit? Like the fact that I started interior design not knowing that I was going to, it just happened to happen to me. A lot of people, of course, don't know that. They see you in living in your life as it is now and assume that you had it all planned out.
No, no
I did
context.
not. I
Mm,
did not have it all planned out. It
yeah.
happened to me.
Yeah.
But of course, you know, I was intentional about things that were happening. And of course, God always has a plan for you. But
Mm,
just being able to share that story has inspired people. Sometimes people will say, "Oh, sorry, just hearing your story makes me feel really inspired to try to do this thing." Like I've always thought about it. Like I've thought about design, not necessarily always in interior design, but whatever it is that they're trying to do. I mean, I failed first, and I still fail sometimes now. But I failed first, and I was able to get up and keep going. And
yeah.
that just being able to share that is important for other people to hear, especially in my world, like where as Africans doing interior design is a bit like, huh, what, where, and why.
Yeah. That's
That's what interior design means to me, I guess, in a nutshell.
in a
I mean,
nutshell.
in a large nutshell.
In a very hectic nutshell. So, but what I'm getting though in a nutshell is interior design is integral in terms of, I guess, most of the time when you are designing a space, the question you're asking is, how do we want somebody to feel? Is that the essence of what the question that you ask when you are designing, whether it's a residential space or a corporate space? Is that the essence of the question that you are solving for?
Yes, yes. How do I want you to feel? Yes, that's essentially when we ask a whole bunch of questions, that's what we're
Mm,
trying to get at. How do we want you to feel, and how do we want you to communicate in that space?
yeah.
Like, relational, like between other people. So if there's one person, or if there's more than one person, how do you want them to relate to one another? So which is also how you feel in a way, like, and of course now, how people feel in a space affects how they act even when they leave that space. So yeah, so that's essentially the question.
You know, I want us to, because I think I've always said this to to my friends that, oh my gosh, for my dream house I'm gonna get an interior designer. And that's because in my mind, when I say that, I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna be a millionaire, then
Yeah.
I'm gonna afford to get an interior designer. Can we demystify some myths? Is
Oh yeah.
interior design only for rich people? Because I think, especially in the context of Africa, because again, this is about creating Africa and the spaces that we're in. And I want to talk about the politics of space, the politics of products,
Mm,
because even in terms of, I know I was talking to Nosi about this, the way our most of our houses have been designed, we've had a very colonial influence in terms of our houses. There's been I call it the politics of products. Some of the products that we have are still very much inspired by the Victorian age, and I want to just bring in the context around, as we are reimagining Africa, but also the accessibility of interior design. Is it um, a necessity or is it a nice to have? And in thinking about that question, for me, it's just about, because most of us, when we are building a house or buying property, that's kind of not, interior design is not on the list until you're rich.
yeah, it is
We
true, and I
justify
think
that for us, yeah.
it's globally. Everybody, most people think of interior design as not as, definitely not as a necessity, but like a nice to have. But I do not like to believe that interior design is only for the rich. And I
Mm,
always say this thing because it's something that myself representing my firm and as a person, I strongly believe that everybody deserves to live in a happy space regardless of their social economic climate. And you probably hear me saying this like all the time. And when I say it, I'm not just saying this, I mean it. Um, we don't work just because people have ginormous budgets. Of course, those projects are nice to do because you can have fun in terms of creativity and all of that.
mm,
But it's not just about that. Um, and interior design does not always mean that you're buying designer, expensive furniture or your marble everywhere, those things. Not necessarily. It's just the thought process that it takes into making a space feel warm if you want it to feel warm, cozy if you want it to feel cozy, whatever it is. So what we try to do as a company is we try to do interior design for people who cannot afford it at the moment.
mm,
So what we do, work with orphanages. Sometimes we work with IDP camps to uplift their spaces to the level where, at least they're comfortable. They're comfortable. They can come home to a nice pillow, come home to great smells, come home to with a lick of paint, with lighting, or whatever it is that we can do. So that's what, as a company, we do, and we call it the Happy Space Project. We're always consistently, as long as we're doing our normal projects, we're always working on happy space projects alongside.
I
And for
love
me, that is important because it's just the same way food and shelter is supposed to be for everybody. But of course, everybody cannot afford food and shelter. So people are doing things to, try to get water projects to get
yeah,
people to be able to drink water that I've been drinking so effortlessly here because it's available to me. So we want to make interior design available to as many people as possible. But that's even on an extreme level. Even on a regular level, I think that when we stop thinking about it as something that is very, very big and out there, especially now, there are
yeah,
so many ways to achieve a space that feels nice and looks
mm,
good without spending enormous amounts of money. And also, there are many, like, we also have a platform where we do interiors, which is like an online interior design service where you don't pay that much money and we help you design your space and you can pull the things in through and everything happens online. And that was again because of our own goal to
mm,
design spaces for everybody regardless of the social climate. So even if you say
mm,
I only have a budget of 50,000 naira, whatever it is, we would always try to find ways to make it work. Like, okay, let's see what we can do for you, things like that. So I mean, yes, it can be a luxury per se, because obviously if you want, but the same way chicken can be a luxury for people because some people can't even afford. Yeah, it's
Hey,
true.
chicken is not a luxury.
For me, vegetables can be a luxury. Like I want to buy kale in Lagos, and they will tell you that one little bundle of kale is one ridiculous amount of. I'm like, it's a
Yeah.
vegetable. They plucked it from a tree. Why am I?
Yeah.
Always offering to get it. So it's I do not see it as a luxury. I think it's a necessity. And I feel
Yeah.
like every day in my 15 years of being actively doing interior design here in Nigeria, I have seen people understand more the importance of interior design and actually, calling on the services of myself and my colleagues in the industry. And these people are happier. They're happier when they come into spaces that look nice. Like even in my own office, we have places where you can relax, you can chill, and it feels nice. It's bright, it's happy. People are just not as angry when you live in a nice space and you work in a nice space. They it's necessary. It's not a luxury. It's actually
It's necessary. Oh.
necessary, Jare. You should hire designers to make your spaces nice. It really makes a world of difference. And I don't know if there's anybody who I would ask that, okay, when your space was just done, like you moved into like a plain blank wall space, or you moved to a space that was actually carefully done to your taste and for your
Yeah.
lifestyle, that they will not say that, oh, it makes a difference in the way I wake up in the morning. It does. It really does. And I think it's essential for us to push as much as we can to have people infuse interior design into their space for their viewing pleasure and for the wellness of their being.
And my hair is wanting to design its own thing.
Leave this hair alone.
I'm like, hey. So,
Have
so,
them
so the
hair.
guys who are joining us the platform we in, it's
StreamYard.
how where my hair is at. So yeah, this is gonna be one of the funniest moments of this. Please, guys, please don't create a meme or a meme out of.
Oh my goodness. I love it.
Okay, I think I
Yes,
figured it out
yes, you have.
finally.
You
Yeah,
have.
so yeah, guys, yeah. Anyway, the screen is on the opposite side. Hence, I've been
It's
struggling.
mirrored.
And it wants to be happy. So oh, sorry, I just want to pick up on I love, and it's one of the things you say in the documentary that you believe that every single person deserves to live in a happy space,
Mhm.
right? And I remember thinking about that, and obviously I know that in the context of how we think of how I've always thought of interior design in at the individual level, it was almost as if this is a nice to have when you have money. And thank you for clarifying that actually
Mhm.
the core of it is about how do we bring in particular kind of fabrics and lighting and paintings that create a particular ambience that you're going for. And you're right, you're so right. The environments that you enter and you're like, I don't know, something just happened in the environments that you enter and you don't feel or okay, right? So I want to just elevate the conversation a bit, looking at our workspaces, right? And I mean, I'm thinking about there's a whole global well-being movement right now going on around humanizing work. And I remember I was reading an article in one of these, I think it was in the World Economic Forum, and they were talking about the global well-being framework. And obviously it explores various components for workspaces, right? And one of the components is around environmental well-being and how the environment has an impact in terms of our psychosocial wellness, right?
Yeah.
And I'm curious around, like, the post COVID-19 world, even prior to COVID-19, in terms of your the client work in corporate offices, what are the proposals that are coming in? A proposal coming in infusing some consciousness about humanizing our workspaces, some consciousness about, what these environments that we're coming to, we must be well. Has there been any, I don't know, insights from proposals, and can you share some of those examples with us?
Oh yes, absolutely. There has been, like, ever since the lockdown and post COVID, I get, especially commercial clients,
Yeah.
even residential as well. Residential, you hear, I just want my home to feel very cozy. So if I don't have to come out, I'm comfortable in it. So
Mm,
during the lockdown, we did a lot of renovations. People just wanted to redo their spaces, even just
wow.
change their sheet, like get a new set of
Oh,
sheets, lighting. That's when they realized that some light bulbs are out, things like that. But for
wow.
offices, we've had people say, Osaru, I don't want to sit on a chair for 5 to 7 hours that is not ergonomically sound or comfortable. I want to be able to also stand while I'm working when need be. I want to have a personal area in the office. Like if you, of course, some of these offices now they're creating cubicles more. So how do we personalize these spaces?
Mm,
Just yesterday, I had a conversation with the clients that we were proposing for plants, and we're going to mix it, have some silk plants, which are artificial plants, and some real plants. And they said, absolutely not. We want everything to be real, live plants. And she was
mm,
saying that, for us, it's very important for it to feel like refreshing and at home. The only reason why we propose that is because sometimes people cannot maintain, live plants. It
yeah.
gets really difficult. But she just kept on saying, no, it's very important for us, Sarah. We want the oxygen and the carbohydrate, carbon dioxide to move in and out really.
Wow.
So it's people like now people care. People actually care about how they feel. So one of the things that we do here at my office is interiors is we think about the five senses. We're thinking,
Mm,
okay, people's what they see, of course, what they smell, what are you hearing when you walk into the space, what are you feeling, touching like materials and things like that, because we know that on every level of your senses, your space affects how you feel. So if you walk
mm,
into a space and it smells nasty, whether or not you realize it, you're just disgusted by the space and you want to either turn around, your naturally your senses want to either turn around and walk away, or your face screws up automatically. The same way if you walk into a space and everything feels like prickly and it's like, what is this? So we always look at that. Whenever we're doing studies of spaces, we're looking at the five senses and how it affects the wellness of the people that are living in these spaces. And to answer your question, yes, 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 yes.
mm,
Nowadays, clients are always asking, how can I get to feel better in this space? How
mm.
do I get to
Wow.
especially homes? Like I work from home a lot now. I want to be able to stay there for 23 hours without leaving and not feel like it's claustrophobic. And they want to be able to move around from bedroom to living room to another space in the house and have multi uses of the space. So I've gotten that question a lot from residential clients, like, oh, I want a study area, but I also want to be able to use it for this and use it for that. So yeah, definitely people are more aware and are definitely asking for that.
Wow. That's also so interesting to me that you mentioned that some of the feedback that you got, after the lockdown, with people rethinking their
Yes.
spaces. 'Cause I was thinking about that a lot because we had to spend so much time in our environments, and and we do spend so much time in
We
our
do.
homes. I guess the consciousness around how we design and interact with our homes is so critical. And I
Mm.
guess for me, one of the critical questions I want to just unpack with you is, can design be a tool for social transformation?
Oh,
We talk about
absolutely.
music and other forms of artistry as tools, as protest posters. And can design be a tool? And if so, how is design a tool, particularly as we reimagine ourselves as Africans? How can it be a tool for social transformation?
Okay, so I mean, I said this earlier that I've noticed that design has become the channel for me to be able to have a voice. But
Mm,
generally, on a wider range, not just about myself, design has definitely been and will continue to be a channel for transformation, societal transformation. So, for example, you see how fashion, um, and I'm going to give very practical examples.
yeah,
When I
yeah.
first moved back to Nigeria, every time I traveled, when I went to shop for clothes and things, I would be like, oh, I'm going to New York, for a holiday. I'm going to take an empty suitcase because I need to buy clothes.
Yeah.
And I started watching and realizing that all of a sudden, I just got more comfortable wearing things that were African made at home and, reflected the person that I was as an African woman. And it was exciting to me. And I'm just like, yes, my hair. I want people to know that I am an African woman. And that brought confidence on a different level. I didn't even realize it wasn't something I planned, but it brought confidence on a different level as an African woman. And then I realized also my friends and family that are in the overseas, as they call it, started calling us to say, oh, I need this clothes that are from Nigeria, fashion, blah, blah, blah. And it has started happening even in the design world. Materials, like Made by Design, the show, and just things that interior designers are doing here in Africa, using materials that are homegrown and that have the lifestyle of us as Africans. People are seeing it from other parts of the world and are asking questions and saying, "Oh, I'm interested in the textiles for to use for furniture and things like that." They're trying to do collaborations, and I have to say, I was in Italy just in May, end of May, for the Salon de Mobile, which is the biggest interior design fair in the world, and
Yeah.
represented Africa. We had this. I'm part of Design Week Lagos, which is like the design week of Lagos for designers. And what's our whole goal is, how do we create a culture of African design that is recognizable? So we took some African designers to Salon de Mobile, which is in Italy, and people walked by and they would always stop by. This is vibrant. This is exciting. Like each time people stop by at our stand, they were always
Wow.
like, "This is so vibrant. The colors, the materials, the everything." And the feedback was so encouraging for the designers that we took from Design Week Lagos to Milan, and also for us who are the platform essentially. We just got it's exciting because people are seeing design not as something that you do just for yourself. Because people before, you're making furniture or chairs it's just for yourself, keeping your house. But now they're seeing how can this be imported? How can it be transported
Yeah.
outside of Africa? How can it become something that people are desirous of? How can it be something that, like, for example, Swedish furniture, everybody makes noise. Oh, we want things that this look. But now African furniture, and I'm not
Wow.
joking, African design as a whole has become something that people want globally. And it's not
Wow.
just because we just became good designers, but it's because of platforms like this, where people are starting to hear what we're doing, are starting to see what we're doing. It's now the globe is, I mean, there's globalization. So everybody's now hearing and seeing what we've been doing for many, many years. They're now
Yeah.
outside of the four corners of my house in Lagos, or where you are in South Africa. And for me, it's so exciting because, like I said, it gave me confidence. And because of the confidence, I'm able to talk about it with excitement, and I'm able to bring people along. Some of the designers we took, and being honest, this particular lady, she didn't, she makes furniture here in Nigeria, but she never thought about, exporting or taking her thing to outside of Nigeria. It just wasn't something in her mind. So I called her one day. I said, you know what, go and create a piece that is unique and exciting that we can. I didn't even tell her what it was for. She was like, okay, now she's taking it to Milan. People in New
Whoa.
York are her furniture, people like all over.
Oh,
It's being featured in
wow.
different national magazines, like lots of them. And that in itself just causes like a social reaction with people of a different color or a different nation is different, because when you're confident, you're able to say, no, this is my thing and it's great. It's also great. We don't all see ourselves as less than any longer, because we know that whatever it is that we're doing as Africans is also just as great as whatever it is anywhere else in the world. So
Wow.
yeah, it definitely does bring social change, and it also helps people financially as well. So before, when you
Yeah.
are only looking for mom and pop shops around you, now you have a global marketplace that you can sell your stuff and share your creativity with the rest of the world, and it's very exciting for me as a person. I love seeing it. I get so pumped watching African design fly around the globe. It's too sweet, as I see.
So, I love conversations about us becoming active economic participants, right?
Mhm.
And the economic benefit, because ultimately that's such a big driver for us, right, in the next couple of
It
years for our
is.
different governments in Africa. And I'm so excited to hear you say that design can be and is already one of the massive contributors of in terms of economic growth in our continent. So for a young person who will listen to this message, how does one get involved in interior design? Like, say I'm in South Africa, how
Mhm.
do I plug into an Osaru and what she's doing in Lagos, and to understand what are the emerging trends? Is there an African design fraternity that I can go to get into the space and and I guess participate also as not only as a creative but also as somebody who can benefit economically.
Okay, what I always like to, and even the people that work with me in my office, I always say, you guys plug in, try and see what's happening in in
Plug
the rest of the world.
it.
Plug in. Don't stay by yourself in the corner and say, oh, I'm such a phenomenal
Uh-huh.
with myself. No, plug in. So you join associations, the Interior Design Association of Nigeria. I
Mm,
joined, I'm a part of it even up to today. Just know what other people are doing, listen, hear
yeah.
what's going on, listen to conversations. Like when you see things happening, try and plug in. Like the different interior design blogs and magazines that I don't miss out on. I'm always like watching, seeing what's happening. I'm like, oh, okay, this shows. Don't miss out going to trade shows. Even before I like this time I went to trade shows showing as Design Week Lagos. But before that, I would always go just to know what is happening in the industry. I meet people, like get people's contact information. Oh, this is what's happening. Try to. But as Africans, there's most of the Africa, not all, but in South Africa, they do have
Designing
most of the
Daba.
countries. Yes, there's Design in Daba, which Design Week Lagos we're in talks to Design in Daba at the moment for a partnership as well. Collaboration, very important to me. Um, there's interior design associations in all the different countries in Africa. So plug into that, join groups online. There's an African design group also. I don't remember the name, but I'll probably share it on my page later, where you
Okay.
can join, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, be able to ask questions, say what's happening here, what's happening in Egypt. We actually even have a WhatsApp group with different designers from,
Yeah.
all over the globe, all over the globe, but African designers, Pan-African. And we just have conversations about, okay, what's happening in your world.
Yeah.
And there's a book about interior design in Africa and the Middle East, which was written by Titi Ogufere, who is also the lady that produced the show. And that
So
even
yeah.
that book helps you, it shows you like, oh, what is happening in Africa, Middle East, like, just so that we connect with one another. But collaboration, like it's just if you have an
Yeah.
idea and you want to work with another African design, reach out. Like you never know who's going to answer or who's not going to answer you. So you just try. keep throwing those, fishing rings and trying and seeing where you're going to get from there. So it's for me, I think collaboration, and plugging in. It's very important.
I love that. So, in terms of the Pan African Summit, which
Mhm.
I'm assuming that that's where this maybe a continental collaboration. Are you seeing maybe a strength from that body? And what I mean from that is a strength in terms of us having a very powerful seat in the global table,
Oh,
and also maybe us influencing policy somehow. Because I think for me, ultimately, how we shape society is also in terms of how we influence, governmental policies. And are you seeing a
oh yeah.
strength from that Pan African Summit?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Okay, thank you for mentioning that actually, because I didn't
Yeah.
mention that. So the Pan African Interior Design Summit was something that myself and a friend of mine started in 2018. And when we started it, what we did is we brought African designers from all over the globe to speak on the matters of interior design and related industries. And one of the big conversations that we had that year, and we've had it in preceding years, was about logistics, collaboration within African nations, and how we could expand our voice essentially as African designers. And I remember, like, I could see one of the designers shaking, you're shaking in your seat, like, it is so frustrating. I can get something from Europe faster than I can get from Ghana. Like, Ghana is right next door to me. And I want to pick up something from the UK and I can get it, like,
Hmm.
frustrated. So
Sure.
everybody's talking, trying to see. And ever since we had that
Yes.
conversation, and we're still having it, it can never be enough. We're still having it. It's We've actually gone to governmental agencies in Nigeria for sure. And I know that what happened was from that conversation, it trickled other, interior design heads in whatever country they are going to the governmental agencies to say, okay, what can we do about making there be some sort of ease in craft work, logistics within the nation and even outside, and ensuring that these people who are working on this project don't feel like they're just by themselves and they're left alone, and also to teach the African crafts and design sensibilities to people, just the same way. I mean, I'm sure you can see that mostly in Africa, fashion has risen to a certain extent. Like fashion is just, is good. Woo! So the design world is catching up. Catching up, and
Yeah.
I'm encouraged when I see fashion and music. I'm encouraged by really what they're doing. I'm like, okay,
Yes.
design world
Yes.
can definitely come up. So it's a Pan African conversation that we have at Pan African Interior Design Summit, and we're going to have another one in October.
Yeah.
And what we saw is that even people in Morocco and Egypt were saying, okay, you guys have these things that we are looking for here in Nigeria, and we have what you're looking for. How can we work together to be able to, infuse and diffuse our systems with one another without before looking out?
Mm.
And so I see the difference. And like I said, in 10, 15 years, when I started interior design and now, it's like night and day. So
Yeah.
for me, I'm just thinking, what is 10 years going to, in 10 years time, what is it going to look like? And sorry, there's so many things going on in my mind. I'm like looking at the time, like, do we have enough time? So one thing that we do as
Yes.
design, we do a competition for students. And last year we did a competition for the African Design Museum, and it was like we got students to design it, and it was breathtaking and amazing
Wow.
the things that they came up with. Like, how do we literally, how they say that you package African design and put it in a box and show it to all of the world. Just watching what they were coming up with, how the music, the sounds from Africa, the everything infused into design,
Wow.
or being in a museum and people can see. I'm like, why don't we have that? We can have that tomorrow. So in
Yes.
10 years time, what I see for African design, it becomes the foremost desired design, because
Ooh.
design started in Africa. It really did. It started in Egypt,
Ooh.
it started in Africa. So it becomes the foremost desirous design style and sensibility in the entire globe. And people recognize and respect what African design is, and they don't look down on us and think, okay, because it's African design, it has to be brown, bad looking, and on
Yes.
attractive. It is beautiful, is recognizable, is desirous. It helps people's lives. It brings people to forefronts of the world, and it's happening already. So in 10 years, I see it. I know that it's going to be happening. I know that I will be in South Africa more because of relations of, I know, not even necessarily business. It's more of
Yeah.
relations for the African mandate of design, to ensure that
Mm.
we're pushing it forward in a way. 10 years time, people are going to be saying, oh my goodness, you're an
Yeah.
African designer.
Yeah.
Wow. And people will allow their children to go to school to study
Yay.
design and the like, because they understand that just as being a doctor or a lawyer is important and exciting, the same thing it will be for designers as well. And it is happening slowly but surely. Parents will be comfortable allowing their children to go to school for things like interior design, because they've seen other interior designers, like, this is me, like myself, amen. Before, yes, now
And who
in
have a
10
good life, who have a good life, have a good life, who are
in
making
the
good
world,
money. Let's also say
making good money.
who are successful businesswomen. Let's also
Exactly,
say,
and seeing what we've done for the
yeah,
society, everything, and it's just like, okay, so this is what this looks like. This is what this looks like. So the younger ones are allowed to go into that industry, and then more education for interior design in Africa. That's one thing. I was the head of the interior design education for interior design in Nigeria for a while, and we pushed it with the Senate and all of that. So it's one thing. We don't have
beautiful.
interior design as a degree program in many schools in Africa, essentially. I think we probably have it in
Mm.
two or three. So they may have interior design, but it's not a proper 4 degree, and it's people see interior design as something that you can just go for 2 months. No, it's not that. You really need to study to be able to
Yeah,
understand all the intricacies and the technicalities of it. So that's one of the things that I see as a vision for design in Africa. More
yeah,
education, more glorified, more exciting, lots of collaboration within African nations, global enticements, all of that. Like, we're going to blow as interior designers, and they're going to know us and hear about us. So yeah, that's
beautiful.
what I see.
I don't want to add anything more to that because I think you've summarized it quite well. I do want to go to the chat questions that
Yeah.
people have asked looking at our time. But I'm excited, and I know we probably need to have a follow up conversation because there's so much
I
to
know
still
there is.
unpack.
I get
But you know,
so
an hour is not enough. And you're right, there's something happening, and that's why I was saying I want to tap into it, but
mm,
we can't even give full language. But
no.
Osaru, tonight has been incredible. There are three questions
Okay.
here that Nosi has posted on the chat that I want to just read them out to you. So the first one is, what is the what is the message you are intentional about sharing regarding who we are as Africans through your work of design? I think you've touched on it, but do you want to just reiterate that before we move on to the next question?
Yeah, so for me, through my work personally, who we are as Africans, I think Africans, okay, so there's something that I've always said: we don't eat like other people eat, we do not walk like other people walk as Africans, and it's beautiful, and we should like enjoy it. Usually, what we do in my family, all of us like to just be around,
Yeah.
eating, making noise together, and it's that's who we are.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I'm working on a project, I'll ask people, so what's your family time like what does it feel like? So those things, I don't want you to shy away from them and try to do it like the way you've seen it in the movies. I want us to celebrate it instead. So our socials are different. There we love to dance, we love to play, we are vibrant. Africans are extremely vibrant people, and those things should show through our work, and it shows through my work, and I try to push clients not to shy away from it. So there's a client that I'm working with now, and she's from a particular town in Yoruba land. And I kept asking her, what is it about your culture that you love, and how can we incorporate it in your space?
Ooh,
And
yeah.
she was, and now she's gotten really excited about it. And I've
Wow.
taken pictures of her and her kids, and I've turned it into wallpaper, like, created like illustrations of it, because I mean, African women, we are fine. So I just want it to be incorporated into the spaces and things. So that's just like, giving you a snippet. But for me, it's important conceptually. I always try to infuse who we are as people, and as most importantly as Africans in every space that I work on.
Beautiful. And then the other question is, how can we as creatives across the continent share and grow together?
Okay. Again, I touched on this a bit, but one thing that I would definitely say is do your part. So a lot of
Mm,
people say, "Oh, I don't really know much. I don't really like. How can I? Oh, well, what I'm sharing is so little. It doesn't. Is it really going to make a difference? You don't know who's going to see it and be
wow.
like, oh wow, this is
Sure.
interesting." You can have an audience of five, of one, and that one person is taking in what you're sharing as a sponge and growing and learning from it. So don't always feel like, okay, I'm going to go out there and take, 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 take. It's also, how am I giving into the industry as a whole? And like I said earlier, plug in, plug in, plug in, plug in, plug in. Send messages to people. Of course, don't be a stalker. But send messages to people, like, so, and you never know.
Yeah.
Share what you're seeing. Like, when you travel around, especially around Africa, and I've been doing a lot of African travel in the recent, share pictures, share things, and people see, and you never know who's learning from it, or who's, talk about your culture, talk about what excites you in what you're doing. And sometimes people get into niches of what they really love. Don't
Yeah.
shy away from it. Share it. Be
Share.
excited about it. Let people see. So share, share, share.
Share. I mean, if you hadn't shared your story, we wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
I'll
We'll be
keep it
here.
to that.
I
And
told you
then
I learned it, so I wasn't always like this. So it's a charge, and I'm getting better every day. So
beautiful, sis. And then the last question, and I think this is such a beautiful question. I mean, it's you've covered it a bit, but it's really about what is your ultimate vision for our continent, for this beautiful continent, Africa. And I mean, we titled this conversation "Curating Africa." So, what is just as we sum up the evening.
wow. I don't know why this question is making me want to cry. I'm so dramatic. I'm like, so I see Africa as a home, a very warm home
Mm.
that you come into, and when what the
Oh,
rainbow looks like, and there's like all the different colors of a rainbow coming together, and it brings about light. That is what I see for the continent of Africa. I literally see all the colors from all the different nations in Africa coming together and becoming a
Wow.
lighthouse that the entire world can see from wherever it is that they are. And I see it so strong, like it's in my eyes. I see it, and I'm honestly, I'm being super emotional because I can visualize, I can see it. So just see how the colors in the rainbow come together. They come together, and we all know that. Well, we may not all know, but all different. When you bring all those colors together, it turns into white lights. So that
Mhm.
becomes what Africa is and what it's known for. It's known as a nation that is a lighthouse to what
Wow.
culture, family, fun, vibrance, and everything looks like in one continent. It becomes a continent that everybody looks at and says, "That is such a beautiful place. I want to be there. I want to go there." And that is my vision for Africa. It is true, and it becomes true because you and I are in it.
Wow. I just got so many goosebumps. Like, wow.
I know. I'm like, oh Lord. I'm like,
Wow.
this is your vision for Africa, and I'm just plugging in. Honestly, I'm
This
plugging
is
in.
wow. Sis, I don't think I can add any more like to that. What a beautiful, like, in fact, I'm going to listen to this recording again just to
I
hear
know
that.
it.
Absolutely amazing. And I think what a beautiful way to wrap up, our conversation. I mean, I've thoroughly just enjoyed this, and I just want to thank every single person who's joined us.
Next
Um,
guys. It was
Unosi
so
is going to share for those in South Africa. Unosi will just write my website details of where you can get the book Thinking in Full Color, and then, as I said, to our brothers and sisters in the continent and other parts of the world, we will be sharing details. Please follow myself and Osaru on social media, and I'll definitely be sharing in the next coming weeks details of our Amazon, or of getting the book on Amazon. Um,
congratulations, by the way. That's so
yeah, so that, for me,
cool.
I'm deeply, deeply passionate about my continent. And one of the things, and I thank God for this opportunity, one of the things I said to God was, I want to start, hosting continental conversations. And today is
Mhm.
the first of
And look at
many.
us.
And what a privilege, what an honor it is to be able to have the conversation with you, sis. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
what you do. Thank you for your spirit. Thank you for your heart, for, just not just for Nigeria, but your heart for
Mm,
our continent, your heart
the
for
continental.
humanity. Because of that, I was able to connect to that vision. And I
Mm,
really, really appreciate you sharing so much of us. Guys, please go watch Made by Design to those who haven't had the opportunity, and also follow Osaru Alile on all her social media platforms. She's quite the fashionista. Uh, I still need to, I'm like, can you plug me?
I'm a hook you up.
Yeah, plug me. Sis, are there any concluding words from you, and then we will then, end our conversation until the next Full Color Leader series conversation.
Yeah, just one quick thing. So because I've been talking about charge, I've been saying, oh, this has been a charge. I want to throw out a charge to everybody listening to this right now. Yes. And the charge is consciously bring somebody up this week, however which
Mm,
it's going to be. Just consciously make sure that you've lifted someone else and brought them up this week.
sure.
It doesn't matter when you watch this, whenever that week is, give yourself a charge and say, I'm going to bring someone up this week. So that's your charge.
Wow. Consciously bring somebody up this week. What a
Yes.
beautiful way to end our chat. To everybody, God bless you. I love you all so much.
You
Until
guys.
the next conversation. To my sister in Lagos,
You. Bye, guys.
bye, everybody.